something is sitting in Theta, in your subconscious, screaming to get out. And what I do is I run this 5-6 days a week, and then on Saturdays I review my morning shower Theta screams. Welcome back to another episode of Feedback. I'm your man, Nick Alfano. And today we're going to get into brainwaves. Womp womp. Sounds kind of boring, but it's not. These are literally the key to growth, as well as the key to changing everything that has you stuck right now. So, I believe the thumbnail for this one is going to read, because I have control over that, affirmations are bullshit. And I can't stress that enough. Affirmations are absolutely useless unless you can get them beyond the conscious brain into the subconscious mind, into the subconscious brain. So, you've got two different brains working at any time. One is 5%, one is 95%. And you've heard this before, like the average human only uses a certain percent of their brain, a small percentage. What's crazy about the brain is 95% of your decisions are on autopilot. They're actually ran by the subconscious mind. And up front right here, right, is your PFC, your prefrontal cortex. That is your conscious mind. That is where you house your wants, your desires, your wishes, your dreams, the stuff on your vision board. If you do affirmations, if you're one of those guys that has a Post-it in the mirror while he's brushing his teeth and he tells himself he's awesome every morning, you're receiving that data at a conscious level. And so it's only affecting 5% of your total brain power. And the reality is the subconscious mind will always trump the conscious mind. And so this isn't all doom and gloom, but I want you guys to understand the science of, if you are going to roll with affirmations, because I do believe in them, you need to find a way to get them beyond the conscious brain and get them into the subconscious brain in order for them to be sticky and then be part of your habit mind. Because when you create powerful thoughts and you house them in a place that serves you, those thoughts can start to create actions that become habits. And because the subconscious is the habit mind, you don't even realize that it's running your life. Again, if we unpack that word subconscious, it means sub means below, conscious means awareness. So the subconscious mind is always below your awareness. It's very difficult to become aware unless you practice it, of what the subconscious mind is doing, and how for most of us, it's actually creating these self-sabotaging loops. It's literally sabotaging you every step of the way. And I know it sounds weird because, it's kind of you v you. It's you versus you. You've got the same brain that you think you're reprogramming or rewiring with these affirmations. You think you're telling it, okay, I'm awesome, I'm powerful, I'm the best closer ever, I'm the best husband, I love everybody, I only do good. Whatever your affirmations look like, you're over here fighting a losing battle, but to your knowledge, you're implanting these new thoughts and beliefs into the brain in hopes that they stick and they start to work for you. When the subconscious, right, the 95% that's running the show, its primary objective is just to keep you alive, right? And so to do that, it has to keep you safe. So those are the two things that it is always looking to do, is safety for the sake of staying alive. So is this safe? Is this a potential life or death threat? And for that reason, it absolutely fears change, because change is unknown and unknown is unsafe. And unsafe is potentially unalive. So here's another fun fact for you. The subconscious mind the human makes almost 33,000 decisions in a day, and the subconscious makes about 30,000 of those. So that being said, it's no wonder we have no clue what's going on half the time with our subconscious mind, because just try to process that number right now. Not whatever time of day you're listening to this or what you're doing right now, I'd have you consider that you're actually making hundreds of decisions throughout the course of this podcast. Essentially, you're going to make more than 1,000, right? And they could be anywhere from the breathing pattern, what your hand is doing. So let's say you're driving a car right now. Like, most of us can get in a car and get from destination A to B, right? From point A to point B. And we have no clue how many times we moved our foot and hovered over the brake pedal because we saw something coming. The guy was tailgating us, so we made a move. We changed the radio station. We text on our phones while still maintaining, the cruising speed of whatever highway we're on. We put the blinker on. We made the lane change. Like, we did all of these things. And you guys have been there before. Imagine, I hate to say this, but imagine for those of you that have ever, done the drink and drive move. And sometimes you get all the way to your house and it could be an hour away. And all of a sudden you're like, pull up in the driveway. And you're like, man, I have no clue how I got here. Like, I have zero clue. I couldn't tell you one color of one car that was on the road. I couldn't tell you how many stoplights I hit or didn't hit. I don't even remember making half of these turns. But my program, my subconscious, was able to navigate me safely to my front door. Obviously, don't test the theory that way, but some of you, that probably strikes a chord because, many people have been there before. That being said, there are 5 brainwaves that are constantly in flux throughout the day. And the reality is, for those of you listening, and you're probably all 14 or over, because that would be weird, if you're over 14 years old, you are primarily in one brainwave state for the majority of the day, and that is beta. So let me go through this real quick. Let me tell you exactly how they work, how they serve you, and then I'm actually going to give you the key, right? If you stay through the end of this episode, I'm going to give you one of the hacks to get into the subconscious mind. So if you are going to run affirmations, you can actually implant them where it matters most. I'm going to show you how to get into the brainwave state, the one brainwave state that actually allows you access and reprogramming at a subconscious level. So the 5 major states are delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma. Those are the 5 bad boys right there. We won't talk too much about gamma today unless you're the Incredible Hulk or you are Sadhguru and you've been meditating like a Tibetan monk for 30 plus years. I've only met one man who can actually get into gamma, quote unquote, on demand. So we do a lot of work with EEGs. If you don't know what an EEG is, I'll bring one on an episode once. I'll wear it for the whole episode so you can laugh at it. But it's basically, most people know what an EKG is. It's electrocardiograph, right? Which for your heart, right? So it measures your heart rhythm and your BPMs, etc. Well, EEG is electroencephalograph, which basically is the ones that you put on your head, and it measures your brainwave patterns. It measures your actual brainwave frequencies. So I do have a gentleman, shout out to Naveen. He's the only person I've ever met who, if we put an EEG on his head live in real time, he can get to a place through meditation, TM, transcendental meditation, which we don't have time to get into on this particular episode, but we'll do an episode around that. TM is the most powerful form of meditation. Again, Sadhguru, like people that have been meditating their whole lives. This particular gentleman has, I would say, mastered. I would say if you can get into gamma, he's created such a powerful form of getting himself into this state that he can actually achieve gamma. So gamma is 30 hertz or higher. And then these frequencies won't mean a lot to you. I just want you to concentrate on the states. But I'll run through the frequencies right now. Lowest to highest. Delta, 0.1, basically registers something up to 3 hertz. Delta happens when you're asleep. Delta is also known as SWS, which is slow wave sleep. Obviously slow waves, right? Because you're only cranking out 3 waves, 3 hertz per second. It's measured in waves per second. So 0.1 to 3 hertz is delta. Theta is 4 to 7. Right, so anywhere from 4 to 7 hertz, you are in theta brainwave state. That's called the hypnotic state, hypnosis state. This is literally the key. I'm going to get back to theta at the end here. That's the one that allows you to reprogram yourself at a subconscious level and actually make it stick. And then alpha is 8 to 15 hertz. It's called your creative state. For example, I'll give you guys a little hack on something I do every Friday and how I'm able to create things. Objectively, most people would argue a lot faster than the rest of the world, if you want to call it that. I've been hanging out with the 1%ers, and this is a trick I picked up, and I'm going to give it to you guys on this episode. But alpha is your creative state, and then beta is 16 to 30, and beta is basically, it does serve a purpose. For the most part, it's focus and get shit done mode. Beta is very much fight or flight. It is very much, focusing on what we call your 3-foot world. If you guys know any special operators out there, any military guys listening, basically what is right in front of you. And it is very much, again, fight or flight, get by, figure it out. But for that reason, it can help you get through a lot of tasks pretty quickly. It's just sometimes hard to maintain long-term focus in beta. So it's heightened awareness, and it's the least healthy of all of the ones I'm describing. And that's sad because that's where most of us live, and I'll get to that in 2 seconds. And then obviously from then on, you've got 30 hertz and above is gamma. So delta 0.1 to 3, theta 4 to 7, alpha 8 to 15, beta 16 to 30, and then 30 plus is gamma. Gamma is the ultimate flow state. It is like literally like the peak of enlightenment or super conscious. If you can get to gamma by snapping your fingers, you are on another level, and your level of awareness and enlightenment and just overall consciousness is through the roof. It's definitely something to strive for when you learn how it serves you. But let's back up. We all sleep, right? We all touch delta at some point during the day. Yeah, for those of you that track, like I'm a data junkie, so I've been with Whoop for 5 years. I've been with Garmin for 4 or so, and I cross-reference the data because I'm a weirdo. But if you ever track your sleep, you can see how much slow wave sleep you get. You can kind of see how much you enter delta in a night. You want to get into delta because it's where your body does a tremendous amount of recovery, and it's also where some of your deepest things are stored. That's why dreams hold so much power. And the problem with most men anyway, and again, I only work with men, is we have a hard time remembering our dreams. A lot of men just actually would say out loud they don't think they dream. Very rarely, but even if they do, they have a very hard time recalling that dream. Whereas in the female brain, although most of your dreaming is done in delta, they can carry it through to theta, and as a result, they can wake up, and for the first 10, 15 minutes, if you were to keep a sleep journal or write down what's going through your crazy brain, a lot of women can actually recall like every detail of every dream at a different rate than men. Where am I going with this? You're in delta naturally. You hit theta twice a day naturally, but for a very, very brief period of time. Obviously, I just gave one of those away. Right when you wake up, for those of you that, and this isn't like, don't talk to me, I haven't had my coffee, wake up, like not that far into your day. But like literally, you're in like a brain fog right when you like start to become conscious, basically, and get out of delta. You hit theta for a brief moment. I'll give you a hack right now. Actually, while we're on this, I'm gonna give you like 3 today. One of the coolest things you can do, and for those of you that have like an iPhone, I'm not an Android guy, but I'm sure it's all the same in terms of this particular hack. How many of you, listen in on this one, have gone straight from the bed? Maybe you take 12 or 13 or 14 steps, whatever it is, you go straight to the shower and you get some hot water going and you start to take a shower. And at some point during that shower, you have an aha moment. You have an epiphany. You have a I just solved the world's problem type of moment. Like you've had some really, really genius ideas while you're in the shower. Well, here's the trick. If you can, so this is a good course correction you can make for tomorrow morning and give this a go. Almost everyone has a morning set of things that they do. I hate to call it a routine because it's a lot deeper ingrained than that. But you have a series of movements that you do as a result of being in theta and still being in a hypnotic state. You get out of bed the same way, like the same foot hits the ground every time, not the other foot. You take the same amount of steps to the bathroom. Most of us are relieving ourselves like we're taking a piss or something. You might shuffle a few more feet over to the mirror and just kind of take a look at yourself and wake yourself up for the day. Whatever it is, you have a series of things you've been doing for a very long time. And it's autopilot, and it is, again, it's beyond a routine because it's deep, deep into your subconscious. If you can break that and beeline it straight to the shower, you need hot water. I don't have the exact temperature. Just get shower weather and have it hit your pineal gland, which is right here. Some people call it the third eye, right? All the way up top is your crown chakra. We can get into chakras on another episode. But essentially, if you can get some hot water on the crown of your head or right here on your forehead where your pineal gland is, within 7 minutes of waking up, have your phone close enough to you that you can yell to it. And I'm not going to say the S word right now. She'll start recording me and then she'll start talking. Hey, so-and-so. We all know iPhone's name. And you just start rambling all the crazy stuff that's coming to your brain. Do this for 5 or 6 days. Have it store it as a reminder or a note or something. Obviously, capture the crazy stuff that's coming out of your brain because you are in a theta brainwave state at that moment. And you have access to your subconscious mind, which is where all your genius is sitting. And I promise you, your next big idea, the next thing you need to do, the one thing holding you back, some sort of very, very crucial action item, concept, something is sitting in theta in your subconscious screaming to get out. And what I do is I run this 5-6 days a week, and then on Saturdays I review my morning shower theta screams, whatever you want to do. Keep this bad boy close enough to say, hey, S word, write this down in my theta journal. Write this down as a note. Remind me, on Saturday to review this, and then start talking. You will see some crazy stuff in there. You'll definitely see some patterns, and what you'll start to see is like a really crazy idea. Because if we go back to my original question to you, how many of you guys have had a crazy, awesome, beautiful revelation or idea or concept come to you in the morning shower, but by the time that shower is done, it's gone? And that's because you go from theta to alpha to beta in a matter of minutes, and then you remain in beta for the rest of the day. Now, I did mention that you get into theta twice a day. You could probably guess what the next time is. You get into it right when you're waking up, and then right when you're drifting off to sleep. That's your second opportunity to access the subconscious mind. I may have said this on an episode before, but I'll get in and out of it real quick. Thomas Edison, the number I've read is 117, but I've read conflicting numbers. I know he has over 100 United States patents, right? We all know who Thomas Edison is when we think of the light bulb and electricity and so on. But Thomas Edison used to lay down on his little leather couch with a metal ball in his hand, and he would position himself in a way that when he would drift off to sleep, that ball would drop and land on something. He was an inventor, right? Kind of quirky. It would land on something loud enough to wake him up. And then he would simply journal whatever crazy thoughts came to mind. Now, was there a lot of weird stuff in there? I'm sure. But there was some gold in there. Because that is his genius. Again, that is where all of your genius is sitting in your subconscious right now. Like every answer you think that you need, that you're researching on ChatGPT or YouTube or, the course you bought or the guru or the book you read, every answer you need is already sitting in your subconscious. You need to access it. And if you are going to take in new data, which we're going to get to at the end of this episode, the only place you should be storing it is where? In your subconscious. So theta is the key to everything. You access it once in the morning, very briefly, once in the evening when you're drifting off to sleep. I'm going to give you that hack at the end. Let's talk for a second about alpha. We just spent a whole lot of time on theta. Alpha, the little hack I'll give you on this one, is where your brain gets to get really creative. In alpha, between 8 and 15 hertz, you can have more abstract thoughts. So you're kind of in that state, but you're not in hypnosis anymore, but you're not fully conscious. So you're kind of in this lucid, creative, I call it like a hippie woo-woo state. If you want to get things done, number one, if you're an entrepreneur, listen up right now. You should have a dedicated day, and if not a day, at least a chunk of hours, 6 hours or more in the same day. So let's say, oh, Nick, I can't do a whole day. Cool. Give me 6 hours on a Friday, and if you want to go back to busy work or grind mode, great. Set aside at least 6 hours in the same calendar day. I do mine on Friday. It's my whole Friday. And all you're tasking yourself to do is to work on the business, not in the business. And by the way, this isn't just for entrepreneurs. This could be for anybody listening. If you want to have your creative time, you need to actually schedule it, which I get friction right there. The law of liberating constraints basically states the more we adhere to a tight schedule, the constraints of a tight schedule, the more liberating it can be. So I've got people that push back against how anal I am with my scheduling, and I call it no white spaces, and everything is very intentional. Even like you can schedule sex with your partner. I know this sounds really weird. What I'm saying is when you pencil everything out and you try to adhere to that, you actually find more freedom because you get to create your own freedom. So if you're not an entrepreneur and you want to just have that creative state and you want it to be on demand and in your control because you have an idea of what you're trying to build, set aside 6 hours. I like Fridays. I have no clients on Fridays. You can't book a call with me on Fridays. And I play what's called solfeggio frequencies or binaural beats. So I'm going to give you a lot on this call, so keep up. I call these things calls because that's all I do, but I guess they're episodes. Check it. There are two different ways to get your brain into a theta or alpha state, or any frequency for that matter, but the ones you're going to try to push for quite often are trying to get your brain waves into theta. We just talked about that. A, that's where your genius is. B, if you're going to learn new information, like for example, affirmations. I'm going to show you how to read affirmations into theta frequency so they store where they're supposed to store and they actually start to move the needle. But let's stay in alpha mode for a second. Every Friday, I'm either in a binaural beats. I'm alpha frequency, which basically states this. There's binaural beats and there's solfeggio frequencies. You can look these up. Solfeggios can be played, I guess, ambient or in stereo. They can be played anywhere, right? They can just be floating through the air. These are particular frequencies. For example, 440 is a big one. They retuned all of the music to 440. There's a big conspiracy theory on this because 432 is the healing frequency. Another thing you can look up, they are healing Parkinson's right now, certain levels of it, with 432 hertz solfeggio frequencies. So imagine this, a frequency that vibrates at a particular pitch all the way down to like the 100th megahertz, right? So 432 hertz, I'm sorry, not megahertz, hertz. If I can create something that goes in your body at 432 hertz and it vibrates at a frequency that only kills the Parkinson cells but doesn't kill the healthy cells, you'd be pretty interested in that, wouldn't you? So again, there's science to back all of this up. It's called the science of sound. They are doing so much stuff with music and with frequency, it would blow your mind. And I can tell you right now, there are certain artists that will retune their LPs and their tracks to 432, and for that reason, they will often get banned from popular radio outlets, if radio's still a thing. I'm not sure how Spotify rolls. I don't want to pick on anybody I don't have enough data on. But for the longest time, when it was legit AM, FM radio, they auto-tune everything. Like if they took your track, it doesn't matter what your master LP was in, what frequency is, it would auto-tune it to 440 for a reason. Because 432, again, you can look all this up. I don't want to go down that crazy rabbit hole. But understand this. Solfeggios can be played anywhere. 528 is the love frequency. This is going to be a fun one for you guys. It's going to freak out some of you girls. Or maybe you girls aren't getting enough, so it'll be fun for you too. When I got a guy who's struggling to get laid by his own wife, believe it or not, it's kind of a joke, but it's also kind of not. I give him a list of things to do, including showing up as a protector and a provider and knowing her love language and all the things that you would think I would tell a man to do. But I give him some background hacks too. One is, why don't you play some 528 in the background during dinner this week? Why don't you play some 528 in the mornings, or let her see you meditating or whatever? 528 solfeggio frequency has been showed to increase the likelihood of pheromone release, and it does lead. It's almost like the audio Spanish fly. So I went a little far with that, but just look up 432 and 528. 528 being the love frequency, 432 being the healing frequency. Solfeggios are cool because they can be played anywhere. However, and for that reason, where I'm going with that is you can actually find solfeggios that get your brain into an alpha and a theta as well. They are not as effective as binaural beats. So binaural is spelled B-I-N-A-U-R-A-L. And it works like this. They require headphones. You have to have a pair of headphones. So inside one ear, it'll play 7 hertz. And in the other ear, it'll play 11. So the delta, the difference between those two is 4 hertz. Theta starts at 4 hertz. As a result of the left and the right ear playing 2 separate frequencies, your brain, from a homeostasis standpoint, as an autocorrect standpoint, is trying to figure it out and even it out. It will find the delta. It will find the difference. So binaurals are super powerful because if I put a 7 in one ear and 11 in the other ear, and I press play, my brain, in a matter of seconds, finds 4 hertz. While my brain is emitting 4 hertz, is now in a frequency of 4 hertz, it's in theta. If I read a book in 4 hertz, I have a higher likelihood of retention. If I scream my affirmations that are on my post-it while I brush my teeth while I'm in theta, the absorbency rate is 337% higher than in beta. So let that sink in, all puns intended. If I can get my brain into a theta state and then give it the data that it needs, give it the resources that it needs, enrich it, personal development, like all of the things that I need, if I can access my subconscious via theta, I can start to reprogram faster than beta, 337% the absorption rate. So here's the thing. There's only 2 ways to reprogram your whole brain, your subconscious mind, the 95% that calls the shots. 3 ways, I'm sorry. Repetition, theta, and technically gamma, but gamma is your flow state, and the only way to accidentally hit gamma, by the way, is through traumatic experiences. So the third way is not really within your control, but I didn't want to discount it and say it doesn't exist because I don't want to sit here and throw falsities on this podcast. So, accessing theta, repetition, which is also called the 10,000 hour rule. For example, there's a book out there, you can look this one up too, called Project 369. And it's a phenomenal idea, and I love it. I just think there's a better way, because I know there's a better way, because we do this in my group, and I've been doing it for a long time now. Project 369, if you do want to do affirmations, it basically has you create your affirmations or create the talk track that you want to, say to yourself to try to change the way that your brain is operating. And you say it 3 times in the morning. You set 3 alarms, 3 times in the morning, 6 times in the afternoon, 9 times in the evening. And if you do that for enough days, you will get enough reps to basically reprogram your subconscious mind in a way that hopefully serves you. That's the repetition rule. If you access theta, you can do that in about 1/3 of the time because of the 337% data absorption effect. So, which would you rather do? Absorb. So, for example, children from age 0 to 7, when they're born, are in a theta brainwave state. When you are first born, you are only in 24 hours a day. You do hit delta when you deep sleep, but for the most part, especially when you're like awake, you're in theta. And so imagine like battle ropes. Like if I had battle ropes that were only moving at 4 to 7 waves per second, and you had little foam balls that represented new ideas, what are the odds of throwing those little foam balls through my battle ropes if I'm going at this really slow, exaggerated 4 to 7? Highly likely, right? There's not a lot of defense going on there. As we accelerate those battle ropes, aka imagine the brain frequency accelerating, and those waves become a lot quicker, right? A lot more consistent, moving from 8 to 15 in alpha, 16 up to 30. So if we go from 4 to 30 hertz on the battle ropes, we've 7x'd how fast those battle ropes are moving. It's a lot harder to get those new ideas through the ropes, true or not true. So I do this from stage, it looks a lot cooler, but literally like battle ropes, guys from the audience try to throw new ideas through, and I operate at like a really slow pace called theta, then I move to alpha, then I go to beta, and they try to put in a new idea, and that new idea may be abundance, not scarcity. That new idea may be worthiness because they're not worthy right now. And they can't get it through as readily as when I'm operating in theta. So a child, and this is scary, from 0 to 7, actually 3 months before you're born, so even in the womb, this is why the parents are putting the classical music on the headphones, and the dad is talking to the mom's belly. And then we can go even further back with epigenetics, which is a whole other episode. But essentially from 0 to 7, you are in pure download mode. And it's scary because your prefrontal cortex hasn't been formed yet, which means you have no filter, you have no conscious mind. So for this reason, a kid 0 to 7, and we've been there and we know these kids, they can learn 2 classical instruments and 3 foreign languages before you and I could probably finish a book. Right? The problem is they have no filter, so everything gets in. And this is what's scary about your program is you did not write your program. Your subconscious, all your mapping, the way you see the world, the way you see yourself, unfortunately, was written by your parents, was written by religion, was written by school, possibly sports. Just think about all of the people that had an influence on you from age 0 to 7. And then from 7 to 14, you slide into alpha. So now I want you to think 7 to 14, 7 to 14. We're kind of moving, slowly through elementary. We're getting into middle school now. So those are still formative years. By the way, they call 0 to 14 your formative years because that's when your conscious mind is formed. And it's formed from 0 to 7 in theta and 7 to 14 in alpha. So in alpha, remember I talked about this, you're not quite in theta, but you're not fully conscious yet, so you're still very impressionable, super impressionable, but you're starting to form a conscious filter now. Your prefrontal cortex is actually being formed, like biologically. So you've got a bit of a filter, but you're still this is why a lot of your identity crises happen around this time, right? Middle school, sneaking into high school, you're kind of starting to click up. Who should I hang with? Who do I want? Am I a jock? Am I a gothic? Am I emo? Am I a band nerd? Whatever it is, you're starting to form an identity. You have a bit of a conscious, but you're still highly, highly impressionable. That's 7 to 14. And then from 14 years on, which I referenced at the beginning of this episode, you slide into beta, and everything from there on is get by, get through, month after month, paycheck to paycheck. I just got to survive. Like you leave no time for creative thinking. You leave no time for learning new things. You're just trying to figure out what does it take to survive. And very few people have figured out how to get out of beta by design and get into either alpha or theta so they can start to make the real change required to build the life that they want. So let's dance this again. Theta is the one. Theta is the one you want to try to get into. You can't stay into it, unfortunately, for 7-8 hours like you could when you were a kid, but you can get in there for a period of time. You can read yourself some affirmations. Again, imagine, we do this for our members. We set some really cool targets for you for the year, 2025 as I record this. We set some really cool targets across faith, family, fitness, and finance, across all 8 elements. You're really excited. You believe in these targets. You now have tons of clarity. You're super committed. But your subconscious program doesn't actually support you achieving those targets. Why? Because the things that you need to do, the version of you that you need to become, has got to step out of its comfort zone. And we talked about this. Remember, the subconscious is designed to keep you safe so it can keep you alive. And so it resists change at every corner. And the crazy thing about your subconscious is it's sneaky. If you say, I want to be a public speaker, your subconscious isn't going to say, nah, that's a horrible idea. You suck, bro. It's going to say, you know what? I think you could do that. That'd be awesome. But what? What if you're not that good at it? Remember that one time that you got up in front of this class and then this thing happened? What if people boo you off the stage? What if you get up there and you can't even remember what to say and nothing comes out of your mouth for 35, 40 seconds? That'd be great. Like, you know what I mean? So what I'm saying is your subconscious is very sneaky. It doesn't just come right out and show itself as the villain. It'll kind of co-sign on all your dreams that are requiring that you get uncomfortable, but it's just going to remind you about how scary that can be. And so at a conscious level, when you're fighting that subconscious villain, you'll always lose. So the only way is to drop into theta and tell that subconscious, all right, Chief, here's how it's going to go. I'm powerful. I'm a vibrant speaker. I speak with authority on the things that I love. I'm uniquely qualified and powerfully positioned to help the version of me that I used to be. I'm going to step on stage. I'm going to work for free. I don't care because I know I'm going to get my reps in and I'm going to get better at this. And if one person in the 1,000 people that I speak to resonates with my message and as a result takes one step in the right direction to better themselves because they were inspired by my story, I'm going to speak. I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to go in every Sunday and just talk to the camera, and I have no clue what's going to come out of my mouth. I also have no clue if the people on the other side of this podcast are going to like this, but it's not about them. It's about sharing the crazy stuff that's in my head in hopes that it resonates with one person. I don't even know if 1,000 people will ever hear this, but if one person does, it was worth it. If it helps me get better at running my mouth in front of a camera so I can get on more stages to help more people, then it was worth it. So I say all this to my subconscious while we're in theta in hopes that it sticks at a level that's so deeply ingrained in me that the next time I consciously walk around and say, that's it, we're doing a podcast. That's it, we're getting on stage. That's it, we're sharing our story because somebody has to hear this. The next time I say that from a conscious level, instead of self-sabotaging, my subconscious now says, hey, you know what, you're right. You're right, conscious Nick. Somebody needs to hear this. Imagine how powerful you would be if the 95% that is trying to protect you, and for some reason, its version of protection is limiting all of the things that you say you want to build. Imagine when he gets in line and starts to work with you. And instead of conscious and subconscious, they blend together and become what we call superconscious. You start to train the 95% that's running the show to get out of the way and get in line with, we call this conscious calibration, your conscious mind. How powerful are you? I already know the answer, but you need to know the answer. So Delta, don't stress that one. You're going to hit it when you sleep. Theta is the baby. Alpha. Find yourself a solfeggio frequency on YouTube that gets you into alpha mode on Fridays for 6 hours. This is when you do your visionary work, your vision casting, your artistic work. If you're changing your logo, if you're creating a new presentation, if you just want to sit and think about what does the next 3 years look like for my business, you start to really, really work on the company. Remember, on the business, not in the business. There's not enough guys doing this. Use a solfeggio for that. Theta, you can use binaural beats. You can Google this too. Again, there's a lot of fake ones out there, so you're going to have to be careful. There's a way to test this. So you can hit me up and I'll let you know because I have a couple of like techie nerds that build mine for me. But basically, there's a way to get into Theta on demand for a certain period of time, and then you want to make sure that you are very intentional with that time. Again, you can get your affirmations. Here's a super fun lesson you can walk through right now. You ready? Figure out what you want. Hard, right? Very difficult. Try to get really clear on what you want across your faith, your family, your fitness, and your finance. Just set some 90-day targets if you want to start there. Over the next 90 days, I want these things to happen in my world. I would love to just look up in 90 days, come up for air, we call it, and be like, wow, this looks different. Right? Set those. Go hit up ChatGPT or whatever AI you're married to. You should be using AI by now. And say, hey, based on these targets over the next 90 days across my faith, family, fitness, and finance, can you help me create a powerful series of affirmations that will lead towards, me hitting these targets? So there might be certain things that you have to tell yourself so you can develop the core beliefs at a subconscious level in order to execute that plan that you have that you set out for ChatGPT. So what do you want? Plug it into ChatGPT and say, help me create some powerful affirmations that will get me closer to these targets in 90 days. When it does that, ask it for 20, ask it for 25, whatever number you want, right? You don't want 2 or 3, so I always say 20. Give me 20 powerful I am statements, and it knows what affirmations are, but there's a certain rule, by the way. There's 3 different components to an affirmation, but it's always going to start with I am. Then, you ready for this? Another free iPhone hack and Android. These all have free voice recorders on them. You know whose voice you listen to more than anybody? It ain't mine. It's not Joe Rogan. It's not Trump. It's you. It's not some British guy who you think has a cool accent. He sounds intelligent because he uses $20 words and he talks from London. You listen to your talk track, your voice more than anybody in the world. So what you do is you take those 20 affirmations that ChatGPT spits out. Still recording. You read the affirmations off your computer or right off your phone into your phone. If you want this done, I'll do it for you. Hit me up. You take those affirmations in your voice and you're going to overlay them on a Theta track. So I have a track that takes you from beta to alpha into Theta for 20 minutes, back up to alpha, and then to beta. So it's a nice little drop down and bring back up for 20 minutes. And my members will get their affirmations after getting clear on what they want, record them, send them to me, and then for 20 minutes on a loop, they go into a Theta state, so we access the subconscious, and they repeat those affirmations over and over, and it all happens automatically. And they listen to these 2 or 3 times a day. They can play the Project 369 rule, but they don't have to, because in the Theta, you're absorbing data at 337%, the rate that you're absorbing it now on this thing, whether you're watching the video or just listening to the audio. So that's a super hack that I promise you by the end of this episode. That's Theta. Theta's your baby. That's the 95-5 rule. Like you can keep jumping up and down. Like I call it your program's plateau. We've been helping men anywhere from 22 to 55 years old for 6 years now. And I'd love to get more data on this, so I'm just going to give you the small data section that I have. Right around 37 to 40 years old, most men kind of have created what they're going to create. Like, they're kind of going to drive that same Audi A4. They're kind of going to have that same mortgage. They probably won't even get a different house. They're going to have sex with their wife maybe once every 2 weeks, maybe once a week. Their body's not going to change, even though they keep trying a new thing between CrossFit and the gym and running. The reality is your program has limits because it wasn't written by you. And what's frustrating is every January or whenever guys set targets, but January is obviously a popular one for New Year's, people jump up and down and scream that this is their year, bro. They're going to crush it. 25 is I'm thriving 25, whatever these guys are saying. But they jump up and down at a conscious level and they set new targets and they scream them and they put affirmations and they create a vision board and they tell their friends and they post about it on social. And then the year goes by and nothing changes. They may make slight sprints, like these slight 20 to 30 day little moves toward them and progress, but then they settle back into their comfort zone and ultimately they just default back to wherever they land between 37 and 40 years old. And that's scary, right? Like, your program has a plateau and you cannot fight it from a conscious level. You have to fight it from the subconscious. It's the only way to do it. This is what I do for a living. This is what I've been teaching guys for a long time. This is what I realized on my journey, and then I started realizing, holy shit, this is what the 1%ers are doing. They're just asking themselves different questions. They're playing a different game. So those are the 5 frequencies that run the world. Don't stress about gamma. Again, unless former military, you've hit gamma several times. That's where PTSD comes from. Car accidents, you've hit gamma. High level athletes like the X Games is where they really started studying flow state, because these X Games athletes are putting themselves in kind of a life or death moment intentionally with some of the stunts that they're performing. So they put EEGs on X Games athletes. They hit gamma a lot. I'm trying to think. Don't stress gamma though. Just stress the only 2 ways you need to focus on is reps, or accessing theta will drastically increase that. And if I don't reprogram at a subconscious level, I'm going to constantly get in my own way. And because it's subconscious self-sabotage, it's below my awareness. So years continue to go by, and I really can't even see how I'm in my own way. One of the craziest things about fighting alone, which a lot of guys do because they don't like to share, when they're sucking because they've got egos, is you can't really recognize your own programming. But someone else can recognize it pretty quickly. So if you're listening to this and you're fighting alone, you need to link up with somebody who can pull your card as well, because when they recognize your subconscious is getting in your way, then they can pull your card. They can help you hold up a mirror and see it from a place of love, not shame or guilt, and then you guys can work together to hold each other accountable to doing the work that really matters. So those are the 5 frequencies. I gave you a few hacks in there. Remember, wake up in the morning, get the hot water on the pineal gland, yell at your phone. That'll be a fun one. That's like the easiest access to theta naturally. Remember, look up solfeggio frequencies versus binaural beats. Solfeggios can be played just, throughout the air. 432 is healing. 528 may get you laid. And then binaural beats, specifically theta, get yourself into a theta state if you're going to read a book that's important to you. If you are going to really, marry yourself to this concept of affirmations, try to implant them deep in the subconscious mind, because that's where it really matters. So that's the episode for today. This is Feedback. I'm your guy, Nick Alfano. All the things. I'll see you on the other side.